and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this very spontaneous video here with me today. And actually I was guided to create the sacred space to talk about, maybe some of the messages that I received from my spirit guidance, because I was kind of like in meditation space, basically, for the most part of my morning or up until noon, and I just couldn't get out of that energy because the times now just feel so intense for us personally, for many people living on the planet. As you know, we have immense changes happening. So today I was actually guided to offer this session as an healing invitation space, the sacred space of shared giving and receiving in this flow, where I can receive messages and share with you some of what I received right now in real time, as I have the space open for all of you. And we have this beautiful Muladhara, which is the root crown chakra, this red candle I just got yesterday. I had one like this a while ago. It was already burned all the way down, and I just had to get a new one because this is like this physical expression of our grounding, of our roots, and it feels really important. So this candle will now set an intention for all of us. So you can see the heat is making these waves, and I'm just going to put it here in the space so you can be one with the flame. You can just meditate with the flame. Sometimes I like to do that, especially when it gets really intense, and sometimes our focus can be really present. So as much as I have shared recently, so much, and in my own space, I feel a lot of exhaustion at this time. I don't sleep well, not just because of my own inner processes, but because I live in an environment where there's very dense situations with people living above me, and they get up in the middle of the night, and it's an old building that's not very good soundproof. It's like very good sound isolation. And there's terrible things happening at night, the way they make noise, and I can't really sleep. I have my plugs inside, but they fall out, and then I hear everything. I wake up, I can't fall back asleep. So things are intense. And I want to share that yesterday we went to the city to do our, kind of like our monthly grocery shopping because we ran out of everything. And the first person we spoke to, and just before that, we saw angel numbers 444 and a picture, like it was a sticker of the angel on someone's car. And I knew there was something there as guidance. So we come to this store, and there was a person there smiling, and she started talking to us, and she said, well, you know what, my father just died. And she was like just putting it all out. Obviously she felt she could talk about it. We exchanged some words, right? We moved forward on, and it's someone's son that we know. And he said, well, my mom's partner, he's actually in hospital for so long, he had this and this happen. And we said, wow, we need to call her. And then as we had that thought, we went out to get this package, right? We were supposed to receive, and we see her just coming from the hospital. So we spent our time there talking to her, and I did this very spontaneously guided healing session, and I'm thinking about how right now so much of this is happening. There's someone here also we know from the village, a beautiful painter I know. She's also kind of like in this space of giving up. There's a lot of people who are not at this time finding the strength to deal with the circumstances. And the happenings of the whole planet, we have some fires there, I think in America, is it in California? And a lot of people are losing their homes due to extreme situations. Those of us who have homes, we have terrible homes. At times it feels like we don't have peace, relaxation. So because of all this happening, I've been, really pushed into meditation space more than before. It's like to connect with these beings who support us. So the main message coming through today, and this is what I will share with you, was because of the intensity and sometimes this inability for me to connect with what I call my group. It didn't feel like they were always there for me, okay? Although everyone will say, yes, they are, yes, they are. So today, because of all this and the intensity that I was feeling and what I was, wanting to communicate in this collective field, something so again, new came out, and this is usually what happens during my process. It's my own initiatives will trigger a process that will give me a feedback on something that I'm not even expecting, and I will learn more about myself than maybe I didn't know before previously, because they always tell me that I can only find out as much because I would be too overwhelmed, not just with my own being, you know, with the intensity of my being and the powerful creator I am, but also with the ability, you know, of what I can do and the plans I have set out to do in this intense times. So the first thing today, because there was this inability to receive messages from them for a long time, you know, and they felt like they're just bowing their heads down, not really communicating much in what I call my counsel. And I really appreciate their, you know, the gestures, because they have been within this group collective I've been a part of, I think, for quite a long time. There's immense reservoir of spiritual knowledge, of understanding and principles, and all that I've been actually putting in my teachings. It's all been a part of this collective group. But there's some elements of my physical life that they don't want to talk about. And they say, we can't really, you know, hold much miracles here. We can't really say much. So today, what happened during our meditations, the angelics started coming through. And they were really, really, you know, as messengers of the divine, messengers of source, kind of like the intermediary realm between our human realm and what we know to be many other realms, because there's so many beings who are a part of this vastness of life, of creation, this, you know, and sometimes we have questions, well, who do we really invoke? And this is what I want to talk about today. So what kind of presence in a grounded sense in this real time do we need the most, and can actually give us assistance? Because there is no such thing like, oh, this is bad guidance. You know, it's just guidance for each particular kind of like initiation we're going through. And my Lumen Council has shared immense portions of knowledge with me, and I have been just pouring and pouring out all these years, and it has been intense. But to be honest, to be really real with you now, is that the element of how they feel feels not so much human, you know, as you know. And it feels sometimes like all of this is viewed as project of investment, beautiful workings of light. But sometimes I myself feel that I'm just an experiment, which I'm not, of course. But it can feel like that, and I can feel very much sad about it. And I will start saying things like, wait a minute, I'm not just here as an experiment. I have feelings, I have desires. I want to live in an environment that supports me. You know, I really want to feel like my body is going through the experience of what actually I set myself to do, which is a lot. But I at least want to have the space to do that. And I haven't always had the space. I didn't have peace where I live for quite a long time. There was so much disturbance. And my body, you know, undergoing all this intensity and this process. So just like those people who maybe are losing their loved ones, going through these things that we kind of like no longer view it in the same way, like you can't lose anyone, right? It's all part of the bigger plan, and every soul chooses through their sovereignty whether they want to stay, whether they want to go, whether they have something to create here or not. It's like we still have as well our own sometimes things that trouble us, things that we feel we're not supported, you know, about. And so what randomly came out as a part of this meditation, it's like my mother was telling me, oh my gosh, it's like the angelics were so loud today, and they were like fluttering. It's like the vibration, you could just feel it. And then I said, you know what, I'll try to connect as well with this energy more than what I'm usually invoking my counsel. Because when I do, it's funny, but they will always give me just everything in this. It will be a narrative that's more, it's kind of like a more technical approach. You know, the body's like this, and this happens in this process. And sometimes my human part goes like, you know what, guys, I love you, but come on, this is the human realm. This is, it's like we are humane here. What does that mean? It means it's the experience that drives the process. So as a part of that, I realized, you know, as much as we can be parts of certain groups, we're also an individual. So when I embraced that aspect of myself, what started to occur, it's like I got a new wave of love, something that maybe I wasn't initiating or invoking so much previously. So when the angelics came, they actually started to talk a lot. And then my mother was telling me how through her, they were actually saying that they're like adoring me, how they view me as this being who has such pure love and such purity that because of that, I'm not understood on this planet. And that's just how it is, because most people are not fully heart-centered and they don't operate that unconditionally. But they said that I'm just so unconditional that it's like a feast for their eyes. For them, it's like, wow, is this even happen? Someone is a human. And I started crying because I don't always see myself as such. I'm here, I do things, I do my best to just be of service the best way in each moment, right, that I can. And the only thing I know about myself is not to kind of put myself in some special place. But I know that I'm driven through purity. I know that, I know that. That's one thing I know. And I know that I'm not giving in a way that, most people say, give when you're a full vessel, give of yourself, and you can. But that's something that's been different about me my entire life. I give when I don't have just as much as when I give when I do have. Because I don't believe that that it comes from me. Okay, so that's the difference. And thinking about yesterday, how I was there for that woman, even when we weren't even done with our shopping, we had nothing. I was going through intense insomnia for so long. I myself had, issues. And when that person showed up, all we could say was just, let's just go for tea. And she was talking on, and we were just listening, even if there's some things that is, when people start going so much into details instead of just sharing what they feel, you can't say to a person, you just stop. That's not of our interest. Just tell us the real things. What do you feel? What's happening? And you're just there, you're just listening, you're just embracing someone with compassion. They won't always see it, right? They will just see it as you're there as a vessel for them to steam off or just share their own burdens with someone. But there's something deeper happening there at those times. And even though at that time I was deeply exhausted, I was overworked, underslept, underfed, we didn't eat anything the whole day, we're still there for hours just listening. And after that, we still had to get our groceries. We came back so late at night. I was exhausted. And then today, because I couldn't sleep at night, a person above me has this workshop or something, and I couldn't sleep. I was just so overwhelmed. I said, you know what, enough. If I don't have even the space in which I continue my work in the way that my body is rested, so I can at least have a peaceful night of sleep, I don't know how I'm going to continue this. Seriously, guys. I said, I don't know. And the breakthrough was in feeling that the support that sometimes you would consider to be your team or your mission team or your support team is because we're so unified, right? We all have different aspects to which we relate to. Some of them feel more celestial. Some of them feel more like galactic in terms of, oh, we have this mission, it's a cosmic, cosmic mission. And the fact is that I don't always want to be, even though I know I am at so many levels, I don't always want to be seen or perceived as a mission agent. It's like this objective perspective of my life. Yeah, it's just happening. It's just what it is, So it's just like yesterday in that woman's example, she was saying, oh, I called you two guys out. I just wanted to call you so many times, but I couldn't because, she did something or say something once, and it just didn't matter to us. And she was so burdened by it, besides everything she already had. And it was this synchronicity. She just met us in the right moment. And it just unfolded, and she had her support in that moment. How much she took from it, we don't know. But it's like sometimes we feel, you know what, we want to have that as well, not just be those who facilitate that and give that. And I've been feeling like that for a while now, that, it's like sometimes I want to be served as well. I don't want to big flashy things. I just want peace. I want to have an environment in which I live that my body can be well rested so that it can give more and share more of myself. And this is when the angelics started to come through, and they were just like, the energy was so beautiful. It was much different than I'm used to. I'm really used to this, come on, work, mission, this, do this core, that, let's put this out there. And it can be intense, and I can tell you, it's an intense to connect that way. And when the angelics came, it was pure love. It was like feeling seen and accepted. And they were saying that, they were literally saying, and I want to say that because people, they have their own thoughts about when you share things like that, but they literally said that people like me, they don't just incarnate on earth. It's like people, but beings. They said this is so rare to come with such unconditional love and to give even when you don't have. It just pours. And they said this they can only like dance to, and they can only worship that, and in their adoring kind of way. And I still felt like you know, maybe it's false. I don't want to accept that fully. But a part of me was saying, you know, just accept that gift. Maybe you don't have that peace right now, but this is something I can accept. This is something I can accept. This is where I can start, right? So this is why I wanted to do this meditation circle with you today with this short little introduction of what we can invoke, what we can do in each moment, right? So I always, you know, when I have my own appeal, right? When I have my own things which I want to share to those energies that are always with us, around us, as us, aspects of us, I always start with, you know, I know there's bigger things happening in the world, but I'm a part of that. I'm a part of that big soup of unfolding consciousness that wants to grow. But one thing is to participate with it in a way that, like I said, that we also allow ourselves to receive. You know, the candle is saying, yeah, it's the flame of passion. And because when we do feel that acknowledgement, we will give more. We will be willing to, because we're seen, even if we're not seen by other people, which in my case, I'm not. You know, all my life, no one, I was always misunderstood. And my mother always tells me, you were so into truth, even when you were a little girl, always the truth. You're a complete embodiment of that truth and devotion. And I was always like that, even as a child. It wasn't just like post my awakening was like that. The awakening was just like the beginning of being aware of it. But I was always like that, even when I wasn't aware of it. It was an essence that lived through me. And then to receive that gift, for me, it's like a fuel, that mana, of the divine essence that can then go deeper into my work. And it's not just the work it's like seeing online videos, writings, Patreon. Well, that's such a tiny percentage, you know? So after that, I felt really called to also call in Joshua. And I really don't feel as much connection with that being as most people do, because, you know, he was in relation to many light worker groups here on the planet, and I wasn't a part of that. You know, I know my galactic history, not whole history yet, because Earth has a certain veil of forgetfulness. But I've seen a lot, you know, and I know where I'm coming from, at least the important things, and they show me as much as, you know, I can be shown in each moment, not to overwhelm me too much. And when he came, it's like I usually don't feel it as much as like my mother's more connected and she receives more messages from him, and they're very beautiful. And they're always like from that sisterhood, brotherhood perspective of unity and just invitation. And it's more embracing of the humanness, you know, that the council, Lumen Council, that gives me more information because that's their part. This is their aspect of creation, which is so important. But there's also other aspects. As you know, in creation, everyone has their place that we can connect to when we need that energy more. So it's important for us to invoke that divine guidance, that narrative that would nourish us the most in that moment. And I felt for the first time that I really also received a more personalized message from him, you know, that being. And it wasn't like something specific, but it made me cry. And that meant it's the truth for me. Because I always, you know, I continue to ask, but who am I? Just show me. I don't know. I don't even know my name. I know a lot in terms of where I travel, but I don't know like that. That's the most important thing. And he just started, it felt like he was just giving me that, it's almost like that, you know, it's like I bow to thee in that sense of, you know, it's the essence of you. It's that nameless form. And all that I was given was like, that my only name in truth is she who births herself purely from love. And that way I infuse life forms with that birthing process. And I was given that a few years ago. I was told that my only true narrative is to be the giver of life. And I didn't fully understand it at that time. You know, there's elements that I still don't, but I do connect with it in my heart. And then we received another message. And he was saying that basically the role I have now for me, it's like, it's even harder than what he had to go through in that time when he was planting the Christ seed, because now the darkness is at its firmest grip, and there's a lot of extreme duality now with this apex point. But literally how I was shown my mission is that it's like I'm literally the pioneer who goes, you know, it's like you are unveiling the veil when no one else has unveiled it before, and the way that how the new energy is supposed to come. So that's why the things I speak about, they might not resonate with the people, because he always tells us the same thing. He said he's really sorry that more people are not ready now at this time, that he feels in his heart a kind of, like acceptance of everything, but it's also a little bit of that, we really would wish that more people would be open to this, what we call this new energy. And he said that he has a firm belief that, the mission I set out for myself, that out of all people I can succeed, but I get like, oh, what if I don't? We all have that. Because if you only knew, right, you only knew exactly what that was, which you kind of put on your shoulders from that perspective. And you can't get all that. Like I said, it's too overwhelming. Like everyone on earth at a certain point, they go through their challenging aspects. We might not get so deep that the people who are still very much in these relationships, which a lot of them, as you know, they have codependency, they have so many issues, patterns, all of that. And these aspects, let's say someone gets ill or something happens to someone, that helps them to move their evolution forward. But what we have to do in a way is even more different in a way. It's like, it doesn't mean it's not challenging. It's still super challenging. And it's from the perspective of bringing something here that wasn't even here. It's like, imagine the new energy is not yet stabilized here. And imagine being a forerunner in that space where you go like, oh, no, I can't do that. This is like unknown territory. And this is what they're always showing us. And a lot of the things that are written in the books, for people like me, they don't apply. Because books have been written from something that already was. The energy, the consciousness that was able to be put into words. And a lot of times my mission is to channel this sort of energy, to do the groundwork for things that haven't even been there yet. And that's why it's so challenging. And, I always want to also share the vulnerable experience that I also have to go through, because it might assist those who will go, and follow that, especially the younger volunteer souls. And I say younger, younger bodies. But what I was shown is that it is so brave to do this. And going back to the Illumined Council, I was actually shown something that felt like a liberation of being a part of something as a group, but also simultaneously being an individual. So from a point of galactic perspective, I felt this aspect of me that wanted to be independent. And as much as I was a part of this collective, I felt like at a certain point, I was the aspect of them, which is the group, that, we inform life forms. We give these breaths of life to things like there's an initial conception there, like a thought, a divine thought that says, let's bring that out. And this will then travel and move through aspects of creation and eventually becoming materialized. But, there was an element there, an aspect of that equation that said, you know what? If we send out this energy, we also have to send the intercepting factor that will then swallow all of this energy, right? And it felt like, you guys, I'm speaking now from a humorous perspective, this is how it felt. It was like, you know what, guys, you have your own theorems and whatever you have and your knowledge and wisdom's great. Someone has to hold that space. But I'm going to the earth. I'm going to test that out. This will be theory made real. This will be these laws of creation at higher levels implemented now, because it's time and someone has to do it. And this is how they were showing me my part. They said, this is enough to know that I was the aspect that said, hey, I'm splitting off. I'm like a little splinter that went and chose the hard way. Because they said, you in a way are like no one of us has been. That's why you did this part. That's why you said, hey, I'm going. I feel really emotional about that, because it's not sadness. It's just feeling emotion, because you resonate with it so much, because you know it to be your journey. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you today is because so many people are seeking for the mission and, oh, tell me my life purpose, do me a reading. They have shared with me years ago that I have this impenetrable shield for a reason, because I have to be hidden in a way that no reader out there is capable of reading me. Even I myself am not to read myself fully. You know, it will be unlocked, decoded in time, sequences and stages. But I want to share this with you, that why it is so important to just see yourself, like I've shared with you today, the way the angelics see you. Is like, see yourself as love that chooses nothing but love. And even though, as most humans are not there yet, that they can embody that with such purity and clarity and devotion, everyone has the potential to. And sometimes they'll be experiencing difficulties. They will kind of be, they will see them as setbacks, but they're really going to be setting stones for them to walk deeper into what they have been placed here to do. There will be others who will say, you know what, I give up. I don't feel strong enough. And doesn't mean you're not strong enough. There's just simply an idea in this time that you're still holding, that you can't, that you're not strong enough. Okay, so for me, I'm the kind of type of being that even when I'm very vulnerable, I have immense strength. And it's that strength of vulnerability that creates this endurance within me, that even when no one will see me, even when I get no appreciation, even when I get nothing in return for what I unconditionally give, I still show up to the fullest. Every time, every day, I don't close off and say, I will give less because of that, and I'm not appreciated and received, or no one supports my work or whatever. I will always show up. And for me to be that essence in the human body means that I'm birthing that. I'm not birthing just as an idea, another ideology or conception, but I'm birthing that in little human form through my body. So the body work, therefore, is so important for this process, for us to cherish our living vessels, the vehicles for spirit, and to simply, when we don't know, when we feel a little much in that space of the unknown, unrest, unease, we can call forth. And it's important that we call those aspects that we somehow intuitively feel, this is the aspect that I feel to connect with. Because when you feel sort of a silence from an aspect that you feel, oh, that's my group, or these are my guides, sometimes we also splinter off or we outgrow, not because you would know more, but because you're the part, that's what I was shown. I was the part that incarnated. But all this pure consciousness, this illumined wisdom, I was the one that splintered off. So therefore, they don't know. They weren't a part of the human experience. And that's why a part of them said, we can't create miracles on earth. Yeah, because they haven't, a lot of the beings that are in that template, they haven't gone through the experience. And I'm the part. So therefore, I'm informing them just as equally as they're informing me. So if I am informing them about my situation, how I feel, and not necessarily accepting they will bring me a solution or an answer, but just sharing with them. So I'm informing them of the human part that then makes love with this more intelligent, illumined framework of life, so that they eventually can meet. And this is what I call this divine union, because that can be so difficult for us to see. And we always appreciate or value that which we say, oh, it's the illumined, it's the council, and you know what? The behind it is this drive, it's this devotion that really shows your mark of, of courage, strength. That really shows as a being who you are. That defines you, not the name. Oh, what name, what group I belong to. So when I talk about these things, just connect with your heart. What I mean here is your actions as a being and the tremendous tasks that you have chosen to participate with. So for me, it was like a higher aspect of me made this point of conception, had this divine thought, which then I needed to incarnate into, to really understand how that thought will become a living manifestation at this time. There was no other way. And as a part of that group, I was the one that splintered off. So there is the individualization just as well as there is a grouping or unifying aspect of a greater self that we are. So for me, it's like when I connect to them, it's not like an external group, hey guys, let's hang out, right? It's more like aspects of me, but these aspects are full of this divine intelligence and concepts, and I can channel that easily, like tremendous metaphysical concepts and ideas of life, and I have this knowledge, I do. But for me to also have the courage to come here and to be the intermediary link, to be the one that's splintered off, to be the one doing this work at this time when there's an extremity of density, at the same time establishing this new energy, when you don't even know if that will work or not, it's like complete risk. That shows the purpose the most, I believe. Not like what's the physical purpose here, what I'm doing, my mission. This is what most people who call themselves either light workers, star seeds, they don't see clearly yet. And this is why I'm putting this out there now, because part of me just wants to keep it to myself because I feel a little vulnerable when I share things like that. But they said, no, share, because everyone now, sorry, that's my tea. Everyone now who sort of swims with this current can become more open to this. The true meaning and narrative of your purpose, of your beingness. And can you imagine embracing that greatness? Of course, there's aspects of us that's still kind of like, I'm not that, don't give me that. But there's an element of you've done the experience. And this is what my mother always tells me. She said, you're the one living this life. Then you are this highest force. It's not them up there. That's just the divine intelligence. But that's the divine intelligence that hasn't yet manifest in the form. That's the aspect of it. But you as the living manifestation, the one that breathes, gives life here, experiences everything, all the shittiness together with all the beauty, that's the purpose. That's the unifying aspect. That's the greatest courage. And that's why the angelics were saying, wow, you are amazing. You don't see yourself the way we see you. You are doing what hasn't yet been done before. And when people say, yeah, other masters have done it, they have done their part. This is a different time. This is a different space. The conditions are now as they are. And because life evolves, even what we call masters of self, that's the only thing it can truly be, even that grows and expands through the narratives, which means the living translations of something that is first a concept, becoming a reality, becoming that which intercepts that. It's like, you swallow it like Pac-Man and you start to breathe with that. You start to become it. Even in those challenging times and circumstances, so that you could really be that unconditional beingness here that people might have an idea about or concept, but until you fully, in all your beingness, you're nothing but pure love, you won't be, right? We all have an idea, maybe, a thought. But those of us who I feel are closer to embodying that have less thinking of what we are and how much we give. We don't even evaluate. We're just showing up every day, showing up. Random people, that's what we appear to be on the outside. But behind the scenes is where the majority of our work takes place. So this is where I wanted to kind of bring you in this session, in this invitation, in this candle moment, sacred space, is like to feel yourself, the true meaning of your purpose. Okay? So I'm going to take a few sips of my tea. And I've shared with you before, what they've shown me is that even though people are not aware of it, because there's a lot of people moving up, 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 and they're not being aware of the trials and tribulation of what's really happening. And therefore my council is always so busy, right? They're busy because so much is happening, and they're always showing us like things are like shifting like this. That's why it's so hard to make any assessment of, yeah, it's going in this direction or that will manifest. It's so wobbly at this time, and you can see it because those of you maybe who have people who are at the threshold, whether they still want to stay on the planet or not, you see how everything now is like nothing is decided. Everything is like we're at this tipping point, right? When it's like, which way we'll go, and people who are just moving upwards are not really understanding this. The greatness of the times we're in, the importance of the decision which you make towards more devotion, a more committed life to this unconditional presence that lives within you, no matter what, the more you contribute to this, right? That the tipping scales will eventually, it's like we all have moments in our spirit initiations as we walk through life when our life seems to turn, upside down. These are points of this, right? But now imagine this being, it's like this tilt, right? Where it will tilt, happening globally. And globally means the unified soul aspect of, all beings living, being on the planet, the group soul of humanity, how sometimes people call it. It's just, it's like such a far off notion, you know, you can't imagine it. But imagine that by tipping your scales and making sure that you're always balanced, you are bringing that input to the light of how it translates on the planet just as well. So sometimes we won't see the deeds and we're going to say, I'm not doing anything, I don't do the mission, I'm nothing special. But it's just the love with which you always show up, with which you give even when you're empty yourself, because it doesn't really come from self, right? This shows this greatness that we can't put into words. You know, you can relate it to a flame. You know, flame just burns. Not always though. These plant candles can be really tricky. Sometimes they just don't want to burn the whole way. Naughty, naughty plant candles. But I want us now, if you feel called, to, you know, stay a while longer here with me, to do this short meditation, okay, with me together as one group family of light. It's a simple meditation if you want, okay? So just close your eyes. And try to connect with what I was sharing in this video, with these words, beyond the essence of what we say. It's the spoken word. Move into the essence of what was conveyed here and let it just move into your heart. It's almost like you're swallowing up with your heart instead of your mind. And you're connecting to this bigger aspect of you, this wider aspect of you that is this multi-stream, multifaceted diamond light. It has all the courage, has all that it needs, not only to survive, but simply to move always ahead and to thrive. And knowing that even the moments of, you know, these trials and tribulations are the anchor points for this greater being that is you to come through, to embody itself on the wings of love, so that we are actually giving form to love. We are birthing forms of love on the planet, even in times of great chaos and extreme measurements against humanity, even extreme clashes of wills, and it's almost like grasps of energy of old that just so hardly want to stick a little longer. And there's many elements of the new, right? There's the new that feels easier, what we say, the new age, the new thinking, the new expansions. And there's also elements of new that are so unknown that we can't even say they're new yet. They haven't even been born yet. And those all coexist in this moment. But for each of us to truly just be in that space of receptivity and openness to all those aspects, we bring about this powerful tidal wave of expansion just by focusing back on the true essence of our being, our magnificence, our divine state of grace, and that immense gratitude for the courage for being here, and just feeling like we want to embrace ourselves with this truth. Because especially those who are here as beings who receive from much expanded levels of consciousness, we don't always receive support that's directly reflected or met back, because the majority of the people does not yet hold those levels in their embodiment. That's why we need to find a way to always receive from greater aspects of ourselves. We can't count on the external world, not at this time, not at all. We simply show up in the external world as the full, gratifying force that's within itself enough. It knows its value, it knows its self-sacrifice in a positive way for being here. It knows its driven motivation that's born out of divine love and purity. And it also understands its adventure side of life, which is that divine curiosity to meet with that which hasn't been met yet. And those are the true pioneers. That's the idea of the word pioneer. Pioneer is not just someone who stands in the front lines of that which we call is the first energy expression of something new, but a true pioneer at the higher level are those beings who are actually unveiling that which has not yet been met as the new, is the representation of that new. And because they're the ones unveiling it, they're also the ones bringing it forth. They're the intercepting force of life that then integrates that first, establishes the work, builds the roots, does the anchoring process for that establishment of something that we can then say the new. That's the new. So you have pioneers at that level, which then intercept that, which is the new. And then there's a predecessing pioneers, which are the ones who establish the so-called the new. So just feel that space of all of that and how it intertwines and how within this great cosmic heart of gold, this heart of unity, every being has its purpose, its beautiful divine narrative and orchestration of life, and how you as a divine sovereign individual fit in there so perfectly, so naturally, organically, just by breathing, just by being here, just by knowing yourself at your fullest potential and the value of your being, simply as being itself. You take that within yourself with that in-breath and release with the out-breath everything that somehow still contains or prevents that to be, it's like it feels contained within a certain vessel instead of being liberated in your vessel. So instead of being self-contained, you're simply being maintained at a very open, expanded level of consciousness. And you're allowing yourself to be the pioneer at each level where you feel ready to be. And that's okay, because each level is necessary. It's absolutely needed. Otherwise, it would not be there. Otherwise, there is no birth of first concept or an idea of the divine that says, ooh, I can birth that into life. It would not be there. So just feel that you are here because of this divine intelligence. You are driven through this divine intelligence, therefore you are divine intelligence itself. And behind this divine intelligence is this purity of love, which is the all-encompassing, unifying flow of how everything beautifully interconnects, how all is designed and interwoven in the fabric of life. And just feel that space for a while. Allow yourself to feel that way in this time, this space, in this real time now. And call more of that into your consciousness. More self-value, more self-consciousness, self-awareness. And more compassion and beauty. And take that in fully, beautifully. And allow yourself to be who you are unconditionally within yourself first, without needing to know what that self is in terms of ideas and concepts. And then just allow love to flow through you, to move you in whatever direction it's of that highest good, highest service to life, and that expression in that moment. And I will greet you in that space and show you the candle one more time. I'm very grateful to be able to share this moment with you today. Not like my ordinary videos, but I felt called to, to do this offering if I have these meditation circles, when I have them. For the rest, you know where you can find information about me. You can work with me perhaps, or be a part of my learning team with my courses, initiatives. You can join me on Patreon as well, in my community there. and the work I'm sharing. If not, connect in your heart. Thank you for your presence here. And just feel the glory of, even when times don't feel as glorious and they feel challenging, still hold the space of that, you know? It's like the angels, the angelics, they're always, you know, fluttering and joyful. And what they have shared with me today is like, yes, we can hold that, but we're not in form. But you who can hold that space of the angelic self in form, now that's grace. So stay with that thought, keep it in your heart, flow with love, and I'll talk to you again next time, very soon. Bye.
Come into my world, the world of the elven song, magical.